Welcome, Underhive scumbags, to episode 17 of Chronicles from the Underhive, a Necromunda and Post Apocalyptic podcast. I'm Tom.
I'm Eren.
And I'm Tony.
And as you've heard today, we obviously don't have Michael, but we do have him in a segment with Kieran from Manufactured Conflict talking about running a Necromunda campaign. And I'm quite happy because I did that in one take and both of those guys didn't think that I could do it. So boom. But we'll do the normal stuff. So before we jump in, come join us on Chronicles from the Underhive on Facebook, Necromunda Tom on Instagram. Thank you for all the people completing reviews on podcast apps and iTunes. And I'll go into the Patreon bit because I know that we've discussed Patreon accounts, and if people want to contribute, that's absolutely fine and that's great. It helps us with our event features like I've been on recently, improving our recording equipment. I've created a Facebook group, a closed Facebook group for the patrons, because I've just created the hangout with the hosts, things that we discussed in a previous podcast, where I create a Google Hangout and people can come and just join in, just have a chat while we're hobbying. It's like a video conference sort of thing. So I post a link up in the closed group and anyone who can join can join. So if you guys want to contribute and join into that group, please feel free. Anyone who is a patron who hasn't been invited, it's because I'm struggling to find you because your patron name doesn't match your Facebook name, so I can't invite people who I don't 100% know who it is. I've already had a bit of a complication when I tried to invite the wrong person. There was two people in our group with the same name, so I couldn't work out which one it was. So if you know you've obviously contributed to the Patreon group, send me a message on Messenger, but Facebook friend request me first, because I noticed that when you're not a friend and you Facebook, it goes into a random folder that's hard to find. So if you are part of the Patreon group and I haven't invited you yet, just friend request me. My name's Tom Carter on Facebook, and you can tell because generally my profile is the Chronicles from the Underhive icon. At the moment, it's me dressed up as a giant Easter bunny, but I think that changes back. I've set it to temporary, so let me just check. Let me see if I'm back to normal. Yeah, I'm back to normal Chronicles from the Underhive now, so that'll save confusion. So I'm at the waffling point, so if we've had enough, we can go on to confirmed news. Okay guys, this confirmed news, and sadly there's not a huge amount of confirmed news this month. No, the only thing I can see is the White Dwarf, which I bought to read the battle report with Cal Jericho.
Was it any good? I haven't read it myself.
I've only got halfway through the actual battle report currently. It's difficult because I know obviously they've not released it yet, so they've not given points values and bits and pieces. So, but it looks pretty fun. But yeah, I have just not with converting our garage into a house and the issues with my dad being unwell and stuff. I've just not really had time to read my magazine and stuff. So I will give it a proper read. But it looks pretty sweet. All the models look great. Looks like it just had a big old slam down.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a bit of a shame that there's not a huge amount of.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet.
I reckon that just means they're busy cooking something interesting up. Because ever since it's come out, they've not really been this quiet. So I reckon there'll be something big on the way.
Yeah, I hope so. I know they've been on Facebook. I've been reading the articles they've been writing about the different places in Necromunda. So the last one I saw was it Rust Town or Rust City, where people go to run the gauntlet sort of thing. There's like and they spoke about Sump City as well, which was the place where you try and capture the spiders so you can take their eyes because they're worth a lot of money and stuff like that. So that's been quite fun to read.
I reckon they might be sort of setting the way up for some of these environmental expansions. You know, they're doing a bit about Rust Town and a bit about Sump City and whatever, because we might get an expansion that gives us like rules for fighting in those areas.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I hope so.
I mean, what I think would be brilliant is if they released a new tile pack, like the Bad Zone tiles, but you could have a tile pack for like Rust Town or for like, could you imagine Sump City tiles, where actually the majority of the tile is like Sump Ocean, and instead you've like hallways, you've got like corridor, you've got like rafts or whatever that you're running across.
Or you've got like you've makeshift bathtubs into floating contraptions to get across the sea.
Yeah, but yeah, that'd be interesting.
I think that was really it from the confirmed news. Anyway, there's not a huge amount, but hopefully it's because they're brewing something in the background. So what we'll go into then is what we've been up to. So we'll have a quick break and we'll work out who's going to be doing the first bit, because it's not going to be me. Okay, guys, see you soon. Okay guys, welcome back to what we've been up to. Eren's going to go first this month. I wonder how much Necromunda stuff he's done.
None. But I'll get onto it. I'm still finishing off my Gulliman. Just nearly finished painting his sword now, and that'll be it. I just had a bit of a hobby sort of down because it's been so nice outside, and I don't want to stay inside painting, and so I've been out and about having a drink and enjoying the weather, hitting the gym as well. Been getting back into you got to keep healthy. You can't be inside eating Oreos like some people.
The loudest Oreos known to man. He's got a kid, man. When you've got a young kid, you eat trash.
I know. But,
if the little one is down, then I take that as a reward to eat whatever I want.
What about the kid?
No, you can't eat the kid, Eren. Come
on. I went to Salute at the beginning of April. So there's that. And I haven't played any games as well. The guys that I usually play with are playing Imperial Assault and X-Wing, which I've played before, but I just felt like just coming home early, so I haven't been joining them for any games.
Coming home early because your wife's not home.
Yeah, I've been just getting home.
Rushing
home, playing Red Dead Redemption, which is one of the best games I've ever played.
I've still not played the second one. Well, actually, I didn't even play the first one.
It's like watching a movie. It's just brilliant. The acting, the animation, just everything about it is just... I could spend like an hour just fishing in the game because it's just, you just relax, and it's a nice thing to do at the end of the day. Virtual fishing.
You don't even get to eat nothing nice at the end.
Yeah, that's the only thing. But a bit of gaming, and hopefully pick up the hobby again.
Once Gulliman's done.
Yeah, once he's done, because it's such a big guy, and it's taken a while. I've been like really putting a lot of detail into him. His trim is like one of the hardest bits, just building up the layers of gold.
It looks like a Helldrake. Like it looks like you're constantly just touching up gold everywhere.
Yeah. I'm using What there's paint? I was just talking to you about it. The Scale 75 paints, the golds, they're brilliant. I really suggest them because they just go on in one go. You just build up from your bronze to your really light golds, and it just works. I've used a lot of metallic paints in the past, and I haven't had as much success with them. The GW ones are alright. I've used Vallejo. They're alright. The airbrush ones are pretty good. The silver metallics, they're pretty good. The golds ain't so great. I've used Reaper as well.
The only gold, the GW gold I like is the spray. The Retributor arm. When I was doing my custodes, it just went straight on. It was awesome.
Do you do that straight onto plastic, or do you undercoat it with
primer.
black?
No,
okay.
you don't even have to muck about with any of that. It's just it's instantly gold, and then you just muck about with the colours from there.
Yeah, all their coloured primers are brilliant for that.
Because I usually start from like a brown and then paint a gold. You just get like a nice richer gold colour. That's a handy little tip right there. Don't
tips for you painters.
Don't try and paint over black or white. We won't get a good look.
What for when you do gold?
But I've just been messing around with paints, and that's about it really from me. But I'll be back onto my Goliaths after I finish this, because I've chopped them all up and put them on little toothpicks ready to airbrush and paint.
Sweet.
That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So me, I've been pretty busy for some reason all of a sudden. Not like busy as in work, I mean as in doing Necromunda stuff. So I've built all my Goliaths, and I've done the Sump and Croc, the two squigs have all painted up now.
I saw those.
Yeah, they look good.
Cheers, man. I've just seen on the 2Ps podcast, one of them used Ben. He used scenic water effects, and it started out looking like thick PVA stuff, but it dries clear, and it looks really cool with saliva. So I might do that for them, and then use the UHU glue like I've done in the other ones to do drippy bits of saliva afterwards. So I'm going to have a play with that. But I've changed the rivet gun guy. I've upgraded him to a heavy bolter, and I've completed 2 more shooty guys, but I'll explain why I've changed some of my army once we discuss the game with Tony. Dirty scumbag.
It seems like I've inadvertently brought another Vansar gang into the world.
Yeah, it's very much why I've built my Vansar gang. So obviously when you build a Vansar gang, the first thing you do is start with a brute. So I built my Arachnorig, which is out of an Anvil Industries character model and some Necron parts. So for some reason I also decided to paint the base early. So I've painted the base for that, but I've actually decided to start building a lot of my Vansar I had from the old edition, which is why they're using the Genestealer Cult parts rather than the Vansar models themselves. And now I've just updated them, so some of the old models have had their arms taken away to replace for shields. Some of them have had their just weapons changed entirely. So that's all my Vansar done. And thank you for Carl, because he donated some Vansar helmeted heads, so I could bring some of them a bit up to date, so they look a bit like the new Vansar.
I think they look really good though in the like the hazard suits, like the Genestealer Cult suits.
Yeah, I got overexcited again, and I forgot to trim off the Genestealer Cult bits, so I've started trimming off all the icons as well. And instead of finishing that off, I decided to build a Vansar, one more additional Vansar Lasgun model, and Ammo Jack Van Sar, and the Rogue Dock. So I've made all of them for no apparent reason because I haven't even finished the gang yet, but it just seems to be how I'm working at the moment. I've also used the Fleshhound, the new Fleshhound models. I've used the one that came with the AOS Chaos models that came with the very first kit that they had. It was actually from the same models I made the Goliaths with. So I've used the Fleshhound from that to make a Chimerix model for my Eschers, because I thought I've just got to do that as well before I finish.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
then, so then that's got a brute as well. So then all of my gangs will have something additional as well as. I'm
planning to add one to my campaign Escher gang probably in a couple of weeks, and
nice.
I'm gonna use the Clawed Fiend model from the Dark Eldar range.
That's right. Yeah,
because
that was cool too.
I've got a couple spare, and I always loved them, and any excuse to use them is great. And I'm looking forward to painting its entire fur coat in some rather Technicolor paint schemes.
Nice. Because I've just started, I need to do a bit more work on it, but I've started green stuffing fur onto it, because it's a lot of flesh at the moment. And
you're doing that all by hand, or have you got a mould?
No, I'm doing it by hand, and I've got to green stuff some ears on as well, because at the moment they don't come with ears, but I thought I fancy giving them some ears as well, so I'm going to try and mould some of them as well. But yeah, that's so basically I'm just starting a new gang, and at the same time also adding extra bits to my old ones. So now my Goliaths are pretty much completely done. They've now got a pet, they've got a brute, even though the brute sucks. And I've just started and I've started the Van Sar. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been a bit busy, but doing all right. What about you, Tony, then?
Well, I've mostly been just playing a lot of actual Necromunda games more than anything.
Really?
Thankfully, I haven't actually had a lot to do, like hobby-wise with Necromunda stuff, because most of my all the gang members I'm using are all built and painted. So what I have done is, since the last episode I was on, I've played 2 campaign games now in the new Dominion campaign that I'm playing in.
Okay.
So the gang is probably going to slowly grow in size, but I know that the first edition I want to add is Chimerix of my own. So
nice.
once I've got the credits to buy that, I'll probably spend the next a week or 2 painting it so that it's ready for when I next use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been.
Models live longer.
Yeah, they do. Well, that is the case with my Delac opponent from my previous game.
Oh no! Did he have unpainted and they all died?
Well, they were either unpainted or they were, shrouded in grey.
Okay.
and some things did not go well for him now.
Oh, lame.
But yeah, so I've played 2 campaign games with my Escher gang now. The first was against a fellow Escher gang, and the second was against this Dialect gang. They were both great opponents, and I had a lot of fun in them. But they were both very dark games, as in literally pitch black dark.
Okay. What you played in a very. You insisted on turning out the lights, or they used. Or did they use the scenario thing, the one where you turn the lights out in the game?
A bit of both, because the first game was played using the Bad Zone tiles, and we were playing standoff because it's the opening section of the Dominion campaign, so the occupation phase. That's it. Okay. So all the games played basically are standoffs because we're all trying to claim that turf, right. And that involves having to claim a relic that starts at the centre of the board. So whichever the most central tiles are is where the majority of the action is happening.
Okay.
And that first game, the relic was right next to a darkened tile, like a four-way crossroads one. So both gangs were basically sort of piling into this darkness corridor, and ended up in little brawls and sort of stumbling out, bleeding and battered on the other sides to try and claim this relic. And ultimately, it went quite well for my gangers, except for this one enemy champion that just would not die, despite everything I threw at them, and like pinning them on the floor, getting multiple charges on them, hitting them with shock whips at versatile range, shooting them multiple times with needle pistols. I could not do anything. Every time I came to wounding, I just was failing. And this one champion couldn't sort of stop me achieving my goals, but she was just rolling around on the floor and dodging and ducking and diving, and ended up power swording her way through a ganger or two on her way out before we sort of forced the opposing gang to bottle. But I could not believe that I had so many opportunities to take this champion out, and everything I tried just kept floundering. But it was kind of, I didn't mind because the game as a whole was going really well for me. You know, like sort of every other confrontation kind of went my way. I was playing to my strengths and using the darkness to sort of cover my approach, and using silenced needle weaponry in there so that I wasn't giving my positions away.
Yeah.
Because that was the most annoying thing about this champion, because they were using a power sword. Using a power weapon in darkness lights you up, because obviously it's got like a crackling energy field. So despite the fact that everyone else is trying to sneak and like hide in this darkness, and she's just wading through swinging a glowing sword, and yet I could not apparently put her down.
Because you're too busy aiming for the sword and not the person.
Maybe that's what it was.
They were just aiming for the glow.
No,
aim to the left of the glow.
In the end, I ended up winning that game, which meant I got my hands on a Prometheum cache. So now 3 of my gangers are running around with incendiary charges, which is fun.
Ugh. More ball control.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when you get to re-roll your ammo checks with them because of the Prometheum cache. So in the second game I played, I had one ganger who threw 2 incendiary charges in one game because they just had more of them on it. Yeah. But my second game was against a Dialect gang, and as predictably happens against them, when it got to a crucial turn, he used tactics cards to turn the lights out.
Yeah.
So then the entire board was dark, and he's got like a champion with a plasma gun and a leader with a fleshy pistol, but they've got photo goggles so they can see in the dark.
Sneaky.
It is sneaky, but I'd been a bit sneaky when we were setting up the board, and we were playing with a mix of regular tiles and bad zone tiles. At this time, the sort of like most central tile was the big industrial fan in the floor, which just drags fighters towards it, basically.
Nice.
So at one point, there was this brawl going on between like a couple of Juves, gangers, a champion each, and leaders on the like peripherals. But it was all happening through this single width doorway that was right next to the relic and the industrial fan in the darkness. So what was happening was people were sort of crawling around, sneaking about, and whenever anyone was lit up, they'd all be diving on them to try and injure them, but everyone would keep getting misplaced and moved by the fan, so no one was where people expected to be.
It's like a game. It's like a game of like tag or like
yeah,
where you're in your room with your mates and you turn the lights on so you can punch each other.
Well, the thing was,
kick the sofa. So
what would happen was, particularly when it came to making like charge moves and stuff, someone would charge in, and if they didn't actually kill the opposing fighter, after their action had finished, the fan would drag them back 1 to 3 inches, which means they'd get disengaged.
That'd be handy for if you have the whip, though, wouldn't it?
It would be, and that's why my leader was hanging around for exactly that reason.
Could you pull people into the fan? Like, get over here.
You love to be Scorpion, don't you?
I love to pull people.
Well, you laugh, but there's a Dialogue tactics card which is literally called Over Here.
Ah.
And it's one which, when you use it, you can move an opposing ganger, like one full movement of action in a direction of your choice, because you've distracted them or got their attention elsewhere. So yes, there was one point where one of my gangers was tricked into walking into the fan. Yeah, but she did. She got dragged right over to the edge of the fan, and thankfully she didn't quite go over the edge. She managed to sort of cling on, but she was very precariously perched then, and she had to claw all the way back. The other hilarious thing it did was, anyone who got injured near the fan could quite often crawl like an inch or two away, but they might get dragged 3 inches back. So the fan was actually slowly sucking in all the injured fighters towards it because they couldn't crawl away fast enough.
Nice.
And the final highlight with the fan was the second Dialect champion, who was like a combat specialist. Because he could see in the dark, he could see who he wanted to charge. So he ran up, charged one of my gangers, fluffed his attacks, and immediately got dragged into the fan.
Oh.
And basically got minced. So I didn't even do anything. It's just he leapt on me, sort of literally stabbed in the dark and missed, and then they got sucked off into this industrial fan.
You got sucked off.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got to watch out for that. That's what Eren plays for at the Pleasure Dome.
And then elsewhere, there was usual Tony shenanigans happening with my Eschers. I say incendiary charges being used to sort of block off corridors or decentralize advancing in certain directions. I pulled the trick with the ductways, where the Escher gang can treat them as open ground for a turn.
Right.
So I used that at one point to basically skip through a wall, so that I was close enough in the middle of his gang that I could see them, even though it was in the dark, because we were just right on top of each other. Right. And in that moment, I managed to put down 2 gangers, wound his leader, and I actually completely blew apart one ganger with acid rounds from a shotgun. Memorable death, just dead. Doctor can't even save them, sort of thing.
Whoa.
Oh wow!
So my Escher champion had run up behind this guy in the dark, basically put a hand round his mouth and just emptied the acid rounds into his spine, and then his lower half just melted away.
Gross.
And in the end, I did end up winning that game as well and claiming the relic and forcing the opponents to sort of literally slink away into the darkness. Yeah. So I got a rogue doc shop from that one. So I've now got 2 rogue docs supporting the gang. So we should be in a relatively healthy state, hopefully.
Oh, we're going to have to do a double team. Tony's gang. Just watch out for all the duckway blocking and
spine melting.
Yeah. And card cheese.
So just wait till I unleash my house brute in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully.
Well, I can just pin him out of the game unless he can shoot.
He can. He's got breath weapons.
Oh, boo.
But speaking of which, so those were my campaign games that I've been playing locally. But we played a game, didn't we, Tom, when we were at Warhammer World? How did that go for you?
I won massively. No, unfortunately, I lost. I've written a couple of notes as what I've sort of taken from the game Do you want to talk about the game first then, and then I'll talk about what what notes I've taken from after playing the game.
So we played like just a nice standard, stand-up mission, didn't we? So the idea was we were just trying to kill each other, basically. But we played on one of the really nice, 3D modelled, Zone Mortalis boards at Warhammer World. Which, if ever you do get a chance to go down there and play some Necromunda, just play on those boards if they're available, because they're amazing.
We played on the one with a crane. If people were wondering if they've been there before and they're aware of what terrain there is, it was because they normally put the two together, don't they? The two kind of industrial thingies, and we played with the one with a crane, didn't we?
They usually have 2 out at a time, but they actually have about 10 of them made up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they rotate them through the studio and through the the Warhammer World tables and the recording studio ones for when they do Warhammer Live and stuff.
Yeah, because there was an AOS tournament, so a lot of the boards had been put away at the time.
Yeah, but there's usually a good number there. There's even a full normal Zone Mortalis board that they do have as well.
That's right. That's what I thought we were going to play on, but it wasn't there to play on.
But I think the the industrial ones are the best ones to play on anyway, because they're pretty much custom made Necromunda boards.
Yeah, they're great for the Eschers, aren't they?
They're good for the Goliaths as well. There's not many places to run. The best chance my Eschers had was I had that one Juve that started to try and climbing the crane, and ultimately it did not go well for her. But yeah, so we sort of started at odds with each other, didn't we? You basically had 2 halves to your gang. One which was led by the leader and the Zerker, and one that was led by one of your other champions. And I'd sort of broken up into sort of 3 different little groups within my gang. And unfortunately, I'd failed to account for quite the spread you can get from that grenade launcher on your leader.
That's
so
right.
One of my groups was harassed by a few frag grenades quite early on.
Yeah, that was the only thing I could really do.
You did send a couple of Eschers tumbling, didn't you, from the walkways and stuff?
Yeah.
And you quite mercilessly had the Zerker advancing very menacingly down this ground floor corridor.
That's right. It's the only real place I could put him.
Yeah.
He's a big boy.
And he did start off very well in that he leapt on the first ganger he found and then climbed up a gantry and immediately mullered the Juve he found up there as well.
That's right.
So he had a good momentum to him, but my plan sort of from the off had been that I was trying to funnel your gang into one point of contact, really, where I could then try and set up layers of gangers and force you to engage who I wanted and when I wanted. And I was achieving that with gas traps, melter traps, and beast lair markers, wasn't I?
That's right.
Yeah, there was basically about the second or third turn onwards. Basically, every turn I had either a ganger or Juve deploying a new sort of trap, which was then encouraging you to either just dare going straight through them or sort of take a bit more of a scenic route to get to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it did kind of long out the movement, because they're not the quickest creatures to start with, so anything that you could then keep doing to increase the amount of time it took,
and then
just more time for them not to attack.
Yeah. And I was sort of periodically taking pot shots at various gangers and champions and stuff where I could, and I was slowly but surely whittling you down. But then, I think it was about turn 4, I want to say, that was kind of a big turning point turn, because, well, not turning point, but it's kind of when everything kicked off. Because that was the turns where I threw out my, flashbangs, the photon flash grenades.
That's right.
Right in the middle of the board, and basically, I think about 2 or 3 people from both sides ended up blind. Which was then stumbling around the beast marker, which kept swiping at people. And that was also the same turn, I think, where I sent a ganger tumbling off a gantry onto the head of your Zerker.
That's right. Was this the turn I shot my own Zerker in the bum with a crack grenade?
Yes, that happened.
I took most of the wounds off my own model, didn't I?
Yeah, so it has 3 wounds, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the first 2 it lost was to a crack grenade from your leader hitting it in the back. Which sent him tumbling off this gantry and into the ground floor corridor again that I was trying to funnel your gang into. But this was the turn where you'd popped your tactics cards to sort of get everyone to jump up and make recovery rolls. So it's we had a bunch of blind people, we had a bunch of people that had fallen off gantries, we had grenades exploding in as a result of friendly fire, and yet the Goliaths were sort of leaping up and taking in their stride amongst all this.
Yeah, okay, guys. Sorry, technical difficulties again. My computer seems to keep wanting to kick me out of Audacity and Discord, so I go quiet all of a sudden. Now we've chatted, we've realised that that the Goliath was shot down from the Eschers, and then I shot it in the arse with a crack grenade. Because it was while I was trying to shoot, I think it might have even been your leader, and I remember doing a crack grenade so I didn't hit my Zerker with the blast. I ended up missing entirely and shooting my Zerker with a crack grenade.
Oh, that's
instead.
because it was in the sort of line of shot.
That's right, it was in line of sight. And because I missed, I hit. It was random, and obviously I randomly picked my Zerker and took 2 wins off him.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you do. Yeah, it's how did you feel the game went as a whole for the Goliath gang?
I realise that now, even though my gang is assault orientated, I can't rely on assault. I think that being good at assault will help in a pinch when you need to assault, when you have to, or if someone attacks you, but it's not the thing to aim for, even in an assault army, which is a bit of a shame, but there's too many ways I find to negate an assaulting army. I mean, the couple of bits that I took from it, I mean, so things like it's too easy to, I mean, I had to put nerves of steel on a lot of my characters, and I think when I read in the battle report for the Orlocks, he somehow made them all characters, so in a way, well, they're all specialists, so they all had their own thingy, and he gave them all nerves of steel, because I think he realised how important that is, because that with the Zerker not having any form of protection, because he's melee only, and I didn't give him the spiked fist to give him the range, all you had to do was shoot him and that's him out. He can't assault in his, if that's the turn that you shot him, he's down, he's then got to get up, which means he can't assault, and unless he has the versatile spiked fists, you can negate him quite easily, because all you have to do is, he's 200 and something points, just get 2 gangers, stand in the opposite direction and just pin him out of the game. One of you is going to shoot, that he only moves 4, which means he can move a maximum of 8, and that's all you got to do is pin him once, and then all he's got to do is just drag himself up, move 4, drag himself up, move 4, and you really just take him out of the game.
I mean, pinning assault oriented gangers is always the best way to deal with them, I find.
I agree.
You don't need to kill them, you just need to make it so they're not really doing a great deal. But that's kind of why I've always seen melee effectiveness as being something which you use as opportunity damage rather than your main method of reliably causing damage.
Yeah, right? I think because it's my Goliaths, that's just what I went for. But yeah, even them, it's just not viable on its own.
I've got in my Escher gang at the moment. I have 2 gangers that have a stiletto sword and needle pistol. So they're primarily geared for combat. Like their pistol's maximum range is 9-inch. But they're there more to be an extra press of bodies. So I don't mind if they get targeted or if they just act as a distraction because they're a ganger with like a sword. They're not a leader or a champion or a brute, which feels like a huge investment of points to be doing nothing other than getting pinned.
Yeah.
You know, so I've got both my champions have ranged weaponry. They've got a needle rifle and a shotgun, but they've both got stiletto knives. So they've got a little weapon for when they do get stuck in, and they're quite deadly with them. But it's not like I'm charging them at people to try and stab them. It's just if there's an opportunity, I'll go for a cheeky stab.
Yeah, and I think the difficulty is that a lot of the Goliaths like benefits, all of their things that they do well at, end up being combat related. What I was also thinking, I know that one of the issues I was finding is I was hoping, because I know that you might get obviously a Zerka. I know they obviously don't start with I can't even think of Nerves of Steel, and it might be too powerful for them. I think the fact that the main thing you can try and do is pin them out of the game. I think if you then negated that entirely, they may be too powerful. But what I was thinking was having a form of Nerves of Steel that said if the weapon's strength was less than the toughness of the Zerka, then they can't be pinned. But if the strength is equal or higher than, then you can.
Well, you could almost basically do a reverse knockback, because I've said this before, most people forget, I think, that knockback actually requires a check against the strength of the target. You could almost have like the same check, but if you fail, the target's not pinned. Rather than if you succeed, they are knocked back an inch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think, I'm not sure if it was when I cut out, but I was saying like you could essentially have had 2 Escher gangers with las guns, probably coming in at under 100, standing on the opposite side, and if one misses, then the other one hits. And if they don't, it doesn't hugely matter because he's only gone 8 inches towards you. And each time you get closer, you're getting within the close range of the shot. And if they're also aiming, at some point you are going to put a hit on that Zerka, and you could be firing a potato gun or an elastic band at them.
Gun, as you say.
Spud gun, yeah, exactly. And all you have to do is just flick him with it, and he falls on the floor, rolling around the place. And I understand that obviously when all shots are firing and you get hit with something, you're not going to really pay huge attention to, I wonder how big that shot was, whether I should duck it or not. But with normal people, I'd say it's fine. But with a Zerka, they're supposed to be like royal field lunatics. If you don't put them down, they're supposed to keep coming at you, and that's not the feeling I get from the Zerka. I mean, with most of the other brutes, they're firing attacks, so it's not so bad. If you get knocked down, you can get up and still shoot. But with it being just assault based, it's like you knock them down and that's it.
I mean, I can certainly say that on the receiving end of it, like, it's still pretty scary. Like, my priority every turn was to make sure the Zerka was not going to be murdering yet another ganger next turn. Like, it definitely took like a portion of my resources and efforts to keep him in check. Like, what did I do to your leaders or your leader or your champions before the Zerka was dealt with?
Yeah,
like, I didn't really have chance to allocate any sort of resources to them because I was just trying to keep the Zerker off my back.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that was also due to my grenade launcher shot, because if
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you hadn't
you,
injured the Zerker, I'd have had to spend a lot more time dealing with the Zerker than being able to turn those guns on your leaders and champions.
No, I'm talking about, the first shot that I took that hit those 4 or 5 guys that were on that gantry.
Kind of scattered them all.
Yeah, if I hadn't hit them, you'd have had all of those guys. All you'd have needed to do was one last gun shot a turn. As long as you hit me, that's it. I can focus on all the other people now, because then I could only ever get 4 inches towards you. And if you pin me every turn, I'd have never even have got close to you. And I think that was that one lucky grenade shot knocked all 4 of them all over the shop. But if I hadn't hit that, that would have been it. That Durka would have just been like pin.
What you're saying is your grenade shots are really swingy. They are both incredibly lucky and unlucky.
Yes, they were both incredibly lucky and unlucky at that time.
Yeah.
But what I also noticed was, I know that obviously the tactics cards, I know you like a lot of the ones that do ball control and stuff. I think that works really well with gangs that are shooty, and I know I'll be definitely doing that. But what I noticed was that because we were playing the 3D terrain, you couldn't really duck ways around the place or anything like that. If you wanted to sit in a corner, I mean, you could potentially just stood on that entire gantry with all of your gang for the whole turn, and there's nothing there's no, apart from the corridor one that Michael likes, where you just set an area on fire. There's plenty of tactics cards that stop someone from getting somewhere, but there aren't many to stop someone from just standing in one place. So you could, in theory, get all your gang standing in a corner if they're all shooting, and if you can get a good sort of line of sight, you could just stand there with your whole gang, space them out so you can't really get blast marked too severely, and then just shoot for the entire game. And then every so often you could run a juve down with a frag trap or anything like that, just chuck it in front, and then you've blocked off an area and they have to come down another way.
I mean, arguably yes, but that's only really true of the standoff scenario. Part of the charm, I think, of a lot of the Necromunda missions is they are trying to get you to go somewhere or do something. Even the Dominion campaign missions I'm playing at the moment, the core objective of the standoff games is to claim the relic at the centre of the table. So that gets gangs moving and involved.
Yeah, I guess so. I think it might have just been the game and the terrain. It just didn't suit the Goliaths ideally, especially the gang that I had, where I'd focused so much on assault, where even some of the gang didn't have a shooting option.
And so, as a result of this, you were quickly nipping into the Forge World shop and picking up your parts for a Saga.
Did you find the toughness 4 helped you, Tom? Or didn't it?
I think because a lot of the things that were being used, like sort of the flash grenades and stuff, they didn't really need the...
Interesting.
I mean, I knew that Tony was going to do it, which is why a couple of my gang members had photo goggles and stuff, so they didn't get blinded as easily. But that didn't help the gangers or anything.
From my point of view, the key thing that the Toughest 4 does is it basically renders all my standard weaponry more or less useless because I can't reliably cause harm. What I have to do the damage with is things like the needle rifles, the shotguns, the combi bolters. If I play any other gang, I can quite often get lucky with las guns and cause casualties. Now, while yes, like Tom was saying, it's annoying when those las guns kind of neutralise his gangers, but because I'm pinning them. But I'm not really harming them. because I'm needing 5s to wound them. So the Goliaths are not suffering the casualty rate from my rank and file that the other gangs do. Sometimes I'll be like, I need to pin that ganger with that weapon. Oh, I killed him. Oh, well, that was nice. Like, I didn't expect that to happen, but it did. That never really happens against the Goliaths. I don't just get free kills with my rank and file weaponry. I have to take them out with the special weaponry.
Yeah. But
That's
then in the
the
end,
key
if...
thing.
Yeah.
But then if they suck so much at shooting, or a lot of their stuff is short, if you can pin, because I know that obviously as shooting gangs get better in the game, they obviously get a lot better at shooting, and then when you put sights on the weapons and all of that sort of gubbins, you can not. Sometimes you won't even have to aim to hit someone on 2s.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in combat, like it gets even more difficult, and I think the closer you get to someone in combat, the potential that where you can actually charge them, you're actually in closer range for even better shot. Like with a combat shotgun, you're at +2 when you get in their short range.
The trouble with the Goliaths, though, is once they start leveling up, and they've just become so resilient. Once you start having like single point of toughness or wound increases, you're looking at guys that are like toughness 5 with 3 wounds. You've got skills that start piling up like True Grit and Unstoppable and stuff like that, and like they just become so resilient that what I think the trick of the Goliaths is, you sort of effectively just keep plodding along, just keep posing threat, but you're not consistently doing a lot of damage every turn. But you find those moments where you just kind of crash through the defences. So that one turn where the Goliath, that one turn where the Zerker wasn't able to be pinned, he smashes in and murders something. That one turn that your champion manages to get the drop on someone, he pops a Stim Slug stash and he rips them apart. That one turn where the enemy gang just has to inevitably be grouped up, you drop a grenade launcher round right in the middle of them. You know, I think that's more how the Goliaths work. It's not a consistent, every turn, my 3, 4, 5 guys are going to cause injuries or damage with these 5 weapons they've got. Every turn, one of them might do some damage, because one of them was in the right place at the right time, or the enemy stumbled at in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you can take advantage of it.
Yeah.
One thing I would suggest heavily for Goliaths is making use of actual grenades. So even just your gangers, they can throw frag grenades like 12 inches. You know, that is not a bad range, to be honest.
No, I guess. I mean, I just think it might not have helped because we played a scenario which didn't mean that anyone needed to get near anything. So there was no deliberate having to funnel to any sort of specific place.
I do like to think that I didn't just castle up in the corner. Like, I'd feel like I did.
No, I didn't.
I
said that there was. I said that there was a potential that you could have put all of your models on that gantry. You didn't do it, but if you were that way inclined, you could have done.
Yeah.
No, you definitely didn't do that. Yes. Tony didn't destroy me in that way. He wasn't that sort of player. But there was a potential that anyone could have just, especially when there was no anywhere to go towards, to have to get.
There was part of me that just wanted to climb the crane. I should see that tube get as high as they could.
Because there was those ammo caches and stuff.
Yeah.
That we could, but they weren't particularly helpful for me anyway because I wasn't really shooting much. But I've changed my Goliath gang a bit because of that. I mean, one of the I've created the guy with another grenade launcher, and the guy with the combat shotgun and the grenades. So he can be one of those people who lobs a grenade 12 inches. So I think it just needed a bit of tweaking the army, but I won't be using the Zerker again because all of the other guys. I mean, only one of my Goliaths is only combat. Like one of them's got the Spudjacker and the axe. I keep forgetting the Brute Cleaver. And he's the only one that, if you put him down, would be like, well, I can't do anything really next turn apart from get up and run. But the Zerker, he relies so much on having to be able to get into combat that I probably won't bother with him now. I could get 3 or maybe 4 gangers for that cost, and each of them would, like, even if you put one down, there'd still be another 2 to, and I'd give them all at least 1 shooting weapon so they weren't useless each time they got put down. I mean, if the Zerker was to get some sort of very mild Nerves of Steel where you then had the potential for it not to put you down, then I'd probably be more happy with it. But with the just having to hit with whatever weapon ever, it was just a bit too much, I think.
I mean, what you could do in like campaign play is you could effectively create like an escort champion for him, who the first upgrade you're aiming for with that champion is to try and get Overseer, so that they can effectively direct the Zerker. Oh, he's pinned, was he? Well, his action, he's going to stand up and move. Cool. My action, I'm going to forfeit, so the Zerker can now charge.
Yeah, and then you just got to be careful with your positioning so you can still get the...
And if you focus on having that champion that do things like increasing his cool or his movement, then he can be where he needs to be in a more support role without directly having to deal damage to be good.
Yeah, because what was annoying was because the Zerker annoyed me so much in that game, it put me off buying the Amble, because I thought it would suffer from the same issue. But once I got back home and thought about it, the Amble wouldn't suffer from the same issue because, one, they can infiltrate, which means if you put them in a certain way, they're already halfway up the board. And I know you're not a fan of infiltrate because, in theory, it puts them kind of on their own.
I don't think it's bad on the Amble. Like, I think it works well on the Amble because of what it is. I've said before, me personally, I'm just not a fan of using it on leaders or champions. I feel like you're forfeiting too much of the utility of those guys. Yeah,
and the Amble also has guns in his hands, so worst case scenario, you put the Amble down, it can still shoot. Yeah, so I in the end I should have bought the Amble. Ambots, but yeah, I think they're probably a better choice, which is probably why you see them a lot more than the Zerker. The Zerker, I think everyone's just been making because it's an awesome thing to make. Yeah, but I'm happy I built it, and it looks really good when it's built my gang. Awesome. But I probably won't run it very much, I don't think. But yeah, that was... I mean, I still enjoyed the game. I just was a little disappointed with the Zerker.
It's the new model syndrome.
Yeah. I just really wanted to convert one. Yeah, it was the only way I could bring up, because that's why I made the extra gangers as well, because I didn't have... Because we went for 1,500 credits because it was a one-off game. I didn't have enough gang members, I realised, to make up the thing, so I had to add the Zerker even as necessity.
I took a few of my fancy grenades and such because I felt like I didn't have enough fully painted gangers. Like, I had my full 13 painted ones, but they weren't going to come to 1,500 credits between them. So I threw in some extra war gear.
Yeah, it's funny because you added the grenades and then I added all the countermeasures. So my champions had respirators and the goggles, and you bought all the grenades.
That all starts to add up. You could have got another... Yeah.
It was just the models. It was just the models that didn't have enough. So that's what inspired me to make more and paint more. So now my Goliath gang is a nice beefy number. So when I do a campaign, they can start small, and then I've always got the models there to add.
Oh yeah, I've got a load waiting for my Dominion campaign when I get round to adding them to the gang. I think I've got like 30 Escher models built.
Christ. Well, I'm getting that way with my Van Sar. I think I'm up to about 15 now. And then 2 hangers on. So yeah. Yeah, but yeah, no, I did enjoy the game. I was just a little annoyed with the Zerker, but what can you do?
I think at some point we'll all have to get together and have a game at Warhammer World.
Yeah, they have to all gang up on Tony because he plays properly.
It'll be us four.
Yeah, me, you, and
Michael sorts whatever he's up to.
Yeah, he's moving, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he managed to do the recording.
Is he going to be moving up your ends or even further?
No, he's moving more Tony's ends up that way.
It'll be about an hour and a half from me, I think, if that. So it would quite be feasible for us to meet up.
Yeah, proper up north.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
It's up north.
Yeah.
God's own country.
He's going to start asking for a brew instead of a cup of tea now, isn't he?
Of course.
Yeah. And he'll want to put gravy on everything.
You mean I'll actually want to put food in my gravy?
Yes, it. I've got a bowl of gravy. What am I going to dip in it? Yeah. Well, nothing like a stereotype. Anyway. So, did you want to talk about the exhibition at all, Tony, before we go to Eren and Salute?
I mean, just
because it was your first time seeing it, wasn't it?
Yeah, like if you've never been into the exhibition hall at Warhammer World, you definitely should. Like, the funny thing was, like I've been years and years ago before it was the exhibition hall, back when it was the miniatures hall, and all that basically was the glass cabinets with the heavy metal painted models on display. So like the models that are on the actual like box arts of all the kits, which is great in its own way. And I think I kind of thought for a long time it was just going to be that again, maybe with a few extra things thrown in. And so I was never really bothered. And when I've been in the past, I've typically been playing games all day when I've been at Warhammer World. But this time, because I was there for the full weekend, I managed to actually get a good couple of hours to go around it all on the second day. And it really is amazing. Like, there's so much in there now. Like, so many of these big dioramas and all these, like, personal armies and stuff as well. They've got, like, as well as studio armies, they've got, like, some staff armies in there as well.
Yeah.
And it covers pretty much everything that the workshop produces. So there's like some Necromunda displays, there's Blood Bowl displays, there's Heresy stuff. It really is awesome, and it's definitely well worth the ticket. Like worth price of entry. And I didn't know this, but you said you could. I think it was £7.50 for an adult ticket. So like that was. I just got that like pass for the day, as it were. But didn't you say, Tom, that you could actually get like a weekend ticket?
No, I think if you buy that pass, it actually does last for the weekend. So you could have bought that on Saturday, and I think you can return on the Sunday with it. I'm pretty sure. Just
keep going back and...
I mean, you could go back 62 times in the one day if you wanted to. You just look nuts.
But there's some brilliant stuff. I mean, like, I'm unashamedly like a terrain guy. Like I absolutely love working on my terrain and adding to my boards, and like I think it's this old phrase of like it's the third army at the table. And some of the displays and dioramas they've got, man, I would love to have been a part of making those. Like I think in a weird way that'd almost be my dream job, working for the diorama team. But yeah, like for me personally, I absolutely loved it. Like there's they've got one of these dioramas that, I mean, they're huge. They're like aquarium sort of sized, like glass boxes that they're all in. But one of them was like this entire underground cave network that has been fought between
I've seen that one.
dwarves and Skaven.
Yeah.
And the sheer level of building that, because it's not even just your normal 6x4 foot table for a Warhammer game. It's bigger than that for starters, but it's in complete 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
So many levels and tiers to it, and they've got line of sights that you can draw through all these different little warrens and rat holes and dwarven holes, and It's so impressive. It's the kind of stuff which, like, you'd love to just be involved in it. It really is kind of like the pinnacle of what there is to be achieved in the hobby.
Mm.
And some of it translates into the boards that are there to play with and play on at Warhammer World. But it's almost like taking those kind of boards and setting these really large-scale epic battles and fights and scenes on them, as well as the fact that the boards themselves look amazing. So I'd definitely say it's worth it. If ever you find yourself there, if ever you make the pilgrimage to headquarters, definitely get a ticket and don't deprive yourself of that last thing to enjoy just because it's an extra little bit of a few more quid needed to see it. It's absolutely worth it.
It's definitely worth it. The amount of effort and time that's gone into painting all those models and the terrain.
And I do believe it does sort of rotate the content and change over the years as well. There's not always the exact same displays. Like, old ones go out and new ones come in. Now, obviously, it's not a huge turnaround because it no doubt takes a long time to make those displays. But I know that when I was there that weekend, there was a new Heresy board with the I can't remember which one it is, but the battle basically with Sanguinius and his Blood Angels versus the Demons of the Runestorm. Like, that board had pretty much, I think, been in there like about a week at that point. So if I'd been there 2 weeks earlier, it'd have been a different display board that had been there at the time. If I go back in 12 months' time, I'm sure there'll be a couple of new dioramas.
Yeah, because the Necromunda one didn't exist before the new models came out. And
That's
the
true.
Warlord Titans are getting bigger and bigger amount, because it was one Warlord Titan at one point and now it's a few. So yeah, it's getting there. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Wicked. And you took your wife as well, which is impressive, because I've still never convinced my wife to go down
Yeah,
to Warhammer World.
And the little one as well. Only
That's right.
only 5 months old at the time, and already had her first trip to Warhammer World.
Your little one.
She was fascinated by it all, wasn't she? She's a lovely little ball of joy. I love her.
Very well behaved.
Nice.
I'm sure she will grow up to be an enthusiastic hobbyist, just like her dad.
Well, I've not managed to get my girls into it yet.
One can only hope.
So shall we go and have a break and go into Salute?
Yeah, let's have a little.
Sweet.
Let's do it.
Let's have a break. Okay, guys, it's Salute time. I was unable to go for reasons of I had to support my wife with some stuff, but Eren got to go, so this is Eren's time.
Yep. So Salute. Everyone keeps talking about it, but what is it? What is it, Tom?
Well, when I used to go, it was lots of independent stalls, and it was a bit like third-party companies selling their bits for historical games, Warhammer, X-Wing. There were dice companies, bit sites, Wayland Games are there selling their stuff. But yeah, people come in selling terrain and bits and pieces. So that's why I used to love going.
Yeah, it's just traders from the UK and Europe, which is great to see. A lot of Polish companies, a lot of French companies selling their models and wares and gaming systems and hobby equipment, and it's basically like a geek's paradise. I remember the first time I went, it was just like, wow, I can't believe such a thing exists. And it was just I still remember my first time, and this is when I first met all the Overlords guys, and it was just like a magical day. And then we all went pub, and it was brilliant, and that's what I love about Salute. It's just the friends that you meet every year. And
did we go together for the first time? or was that the second time?
The first time, no, it must have been the second.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, then we started travelling up together, didn't
we? Yeah, by car. So yeah, you find a lot of different game systems being played. So there's not just traders. There's boards out for people just to like jump in and jump out of games, and they're just like gaming systems people have just made up. So it's not necessarily rules that exist, but I think you could download them, or I don't know.
And there were also gaming clubs that were advertising themselves, weren't they? They would run games and say, "Look, we're here. Come and join us." And so you knew where they were for the future. So lots of different clubs from different areas, because one of them ran the X-wing one, didn't they? Where you flew down
That's it.
One time where you flew down and you had to try and blow something up.
Yeah, it's just a fun day out, and it's not competitive like our cousins over the seas. You know, we're not like. I don't think we're like that over here. We just like to have a bit of fun and a laugh, and then a beer at the end of the day, and just
yeah, the beer was always fun.
So yeah, every year they have a different theme, and this year happened to be post-apocalyptic. And nice. I thought, it fits in with the podcast, and I was like, brilliant. So I managed to bump into one of my friends that I work in the queue. Out of the thousands of people that turn up, I happened to be standing right next to him in the queue, and that was good, having a little chat before you go in, the warm up, and you get all excited, and you're looking through your goodie bag to see what you've got, and if you've got the golden ticket, that's always a lot of fun. And you get like your goodie bag, and it's got a few models in there. This year it had a mini from, I think they're not called Prodos Games anymore. I've forgotten what they're called now, but it was like some Necromunda or something like that. I don't know. And then you get the Salute figurine, which was really cool. It's a girl holding like some kind of lizard dog apocalyptic kind of theme, which is pretty good. And usually the admission covers the stuff that you get in the goodie bag, so I don't mind going every year, because that kind of works out for me, because I live in London anyway, so it's just the price of travel, and it's a lot of fun. So what did I do first? I usually got like a few places that I always like to like attack first, and make sure that I get in there before the rest of the people usually turn up. And
Anvil and Zinj.
Yeah, so yeah. But this time I hit Prodos Games. They're the guys that do Alien vs Predator. And at the moment, they've got a 40% discount on all their stuff, because recently Disney bought out Fox. So I don't think they want to negotiate a new license deal with them, because Disney. It's just a skirmish game. I don't think originally it took them 2 years to get the license, and because the game's been out, and I think they're sort of past that, they're just kind of going to sell off their stock and just call it quits. So they've got like a 40% discount across all their figurines, and I love the models. So I picked up the second edition game and some miniatures, and they're really nice models, and I love the whole Aliens and Predators like series. So that was a good
Not the
hit.
film
And
so
then
much.
and then I went over to Zinj to check out their little their sort of hobby. They're not a hobby box. What's it called? Like a goodie.
The bits.
Yeah,
the
like a
goodie
bits box. Yeah, like a miscast box, and it's just full of bags that are just £1. And like I said in a few episodes back, I usually grab one of those bags and then use the little bits to make bases. So it's like like another little hit for me that I always do every year. And then I popped over to Troll Trader. I was kind of disappointed with them this year. They weren't as big, and they didn't have that many deals. They usually got these big bins full of just loads of stock. I think that's the end of all those kind of bins. I don't think companies are buying that much stock now, or they're really sort of careful about what they buy into. So yeah, that was a bit of a miss for me. I didn't buy anything from Troll Trader. And then I went on usually my sort of little walk around and I'd done my thing, which is, it's just nice to kind of relax and just have a look around, see what's new. And it was quite an interesting salute. I mean, I noticed quite a few things that are different. I mean, the demographic, I think, has changed. And I don't think wargaming has that kind of stigma attached to it anymore. Like, it's just for dudes and for older guys. There was much more of a young audience there, and there was a lot of like the opposite sex as well, which is good to see. Like a lot of just new blood in the whole wargaming like environment, which is different. A lot of the historic stuff seems to be kind of fading away. Also, it's being sort of pushed back into.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's as big.
So I remember last year it felt quite heavy, but I obviously didn't get to see it this year.
Yeah, it's kind of got pushed back into the corners, and I don't think with the historic stuff, I don't think it's evolved that much, and it doesn't appeal to me really. I don't know if it appeals to you guys, but I don't know.
No,
I've never been
the historical stuff. I've never been.
Nah, I don't think the
It's never been for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think the minis appeal, and I don't really like the scale, and
Yeah, anything below 28mm, and I'm not a fan really. It's too small for me to paint.
that's what she said.
Yeah. Nice. Titanicus, baby. No, not Titanicus. I mean the other one.
The other one.
Apocalypse.
Epic.
No, not Epic, damn it. Apocalypse. Always
yeah.
Apocalypse.
Also, what I noticed is there's a lot of high-priced single items and games.
Right.
It's like, it feels like it's the death of sort of like parts manufacturers. Like, do you know, you used to have what they called like Anvil doing like all the bits, and then you had Max Mini and all those guys. They're not there anymore. It's all about the big kind of skirmish games and the big models and the all-in-one boxes. That's what I kind of took from this salute and the last as well. Yeah,
That's a shame. It's like they're trying to reduce the amount of stuff they're having to carry.
Yeah, that's it. And like, I was after paints, and paints felt like it was just hard to find a trader that just sold paints. I guess because if you're gonna bring paints to a show, you have to bring the whole set, and then you're only making a bit of money on each pot of paint, whereas you could bring a whole bunch of models and sell that and make more. I think they're kind of weighing up what's easier to bring and the profit, and I don't know, it's just paints were really hard to get hold of. I bought maybe 3 paints from a show that big.
Oh, that's a shame. All my favourite bits.
Yeah, exactly. Hobby tools and hobby stuff is sort of the main things I usually go for. Yeah. Foreground, I was going to mention these guys. They've gone really small now. They've kind of... Remember last year they had this big footprint, and they've just shrunk. Same with like Wayland and Troll Trader. They've kind of really shrunk down. a lot.
Okay.
I don't know if they just concentrate on really specific stuff, or they got told not to bring as much stuff, because usually they take up a lot of space.
Yeah, but I think they pay for that though, don't they?
I know Troll Trader is big into the second-hand market at the moment.
Yeah, but I just didn't buy anything from those guys. They just didn't have anything that was, like, interest me. There was a lot of like MDF terrain, all that sort of stuff. It's just too many companies are doing it. It's become just another thing. Yeah.
That's a shame.
That was a bit of a bummer. I felt like it was a bit smaller. There wasn't as many sort of demonstrations. I don't know if it was me, but then I went on YouTube, and a lot of people said the same thing, that it felt, there wasn't much to do in terms of like games, and I don't know. I just got this feeling that it's changed quite a bit. But yeah, I don't usually partake in any of the demonstrations. I'm usually sort of there to buy models and meet people and have a bit of fun. Yeah, that was sort of a bummer.
That's what you use in your dating video, isn't it? Make friends, have a bit of fun.
There's some cool tech there. I mean, the 3D printing is sort of coming about.
Yeah.
You can see like a few places are sort of started to advertise 3D printing, and I think that's going to be sort of the next new thing. So first of all, it was MDF terrain. Now it's the 3D printing.
Yeah, I wanted to dabble in that as well.
Yeah, I think you have to get a really good like resin printer, like Keith has for versatile terrain.
Yeah, I was chatting to him. He's got like one that's like a liquid one that you need for the sort of detail that he's doing, but the normal 3D printers aren't the same ones that he's got. No. So I was going to ask him about it, but he said he only really knew about the printer that he's using, sort of thing. He doesn't really.
The Form 2, which is it uses resin.
Yeah.
To print, and that's why you can get such really good details. Yeah. Also, so I was gonna pick up the Sanguinius model. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put down $150 and get myself that dude, because I've been waiting for it. No Forge World. I was like, no way.
That's right. There was no Forge World as well.
Yeah, or Black Library or any sort of GW presence. No one wanted to sell their stuff as well. It's totally changed. So what's going on? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
Doesn't sound like I missed a huge amount, thankfully.
No, I don't know. The thing about Salute, I don't think it's changed. It hasn't evolved really from what it started out as. It's just the same sort of trade show. I know it's got different traders, but essentially it's just the same sort of thing. It's like a bunch of traders. You turn up, you buy your stuff and go. Whereas like the big expos in America, like Gen Con, they've got like guest panels, seminars and painting classes and tournaments. And I think that's what we need over here as well. It just feels a little bit tired.
A proper convention thing would be great.
Yeah.
Other than, like you say, just a trade show.
Yeah. It just needs a bit of sprucing up. I mean, there's so many amazing painters out there. I'm sure they can get one of them over just to do like a few hours, a seminar just to take you through, I don't know, non-metallic metal or I don't know, airbrushing, for example. And I'm sure those tickets will sell out if they sell them separately, or I don't know. It just needs a little. It just needs a little kick up the arse, really.
Well, I'm hoping for next time that it might have done that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, fair enough.
But I feel sorry for the people that have to come from like miles outside London because they turn up and they could have saved that money and just put it. They could have just ordered something online.
And that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah. So say if it costs someone £100 to take a train into London, they could have just used that £100 to order something online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I ended up doing with my Anvil Industries order. It was like, in the end, I couldn't get down, and why not just order it? Cause
exactly.
The delivery costs less than the
travel and the petrol.
Yeah.
I don't know. They should offer like some sort of discounts for the day. I don't know, like 20% off, or I don't know, or some Black Friday special, and I don't know. You just turn up and everything's just the same price that you would find it on the internet.
Yeah.
They're my only gripes, really. It's just little finicky things, but apart from that, I had fun. I met some brilliant people. I've met some friends, some old friends from my old work. It was good to bump into them and just have a little bit of a chat. And that's always like the best part, really. Yeah. Some of the models that are coming out are like unbelievable, like the quality and the detail. I think it was Atlantis Miniatures.
Yeah, that's where I got that dwarf lady from.
Awesome figures, like they range from like dwarves, orcs. They're pretty kind of beefy and pretty big. Yeah. But there's the price to match.
That's what my Beth model's from.
Oh, wow.
She's a Victoria. They've not Victoria, Atlantis Mini. But they've just put me as a top contributor on their Facebook page.
Oh, wow, awesome.
But I was trying to work out how to do it for our group, but I think we can't do it that way because it's ours is like a closed group, whereas there's a page dedicated to the company. So they've got a slightly different setup than we've got. Because I thought that'd be quite cool to put the people who contribute all the time on our podcast, but I haven't got that ability, sadly.
Maybe they can send us some models. Atlantis Miniatures, if you're listening, send us some models and we'll review them and we'll give you free promos and.
So
but yeah,
I've
some of the
converted
stuff.
one up to 40k. Yeah, no, but the models do look cool.
Yeah, and there was also a new trader called Creature Caster, and they make some like sort of Chaos Demon alternatives. And oh wow, they're what's it called? The Great Unclean one. Their version. It was just like unbelievable. Just the detail, and I just wanted to get one just so I can have it. But yeah, the price tag on those are like £150-200.
What?
But yeah, they'll check them out.
Creature Caster.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Because all I could see was Creature Comforts. You know that the old British gas thing.
Yeah. But they have like Demon Princes and what's it called? The one that's Sanguinius Slade.
Yeah, the
Bloodthirster.
The Bloodthirster. They got like an alternative one. Yeah, pretty sweet models. And I think they're my pick of the pick of the show.
Sweet. Yeah, they've got some new Slaneshi models.
Yeah.
That just happened to come out at the same time as the Slash stuff started to come out. And wow, some of their models look awesome though.
Yeah. Really
but
nice.
yeah, they are expensive.
But there wasn't much to go with the theme though of post-apocalyptic. I would start looking around and I was saying to myself, all right, the theme is post-apocalyptic. I'd expect to see. They had Gaslands there.
Okay.
They had a table actually. That was interesting to watch. But yeah, in terms of the theme, the tired old blood angel. You know the guy that dresses up as a blood angel and walks. Yeah, the guy looked tired. He was just like, this again.
Yeah.
Oh bloody hell! I have to walk around for like
he wants
8
to
hours.
succumb to the black rage.
Yeah, so, you could see him every year getting a little bit more, like a little part of him just like
the
dies.
soul. Yeah, a little bit of his soul.
Yeah.
Watch his soul just slowly go.
Yes.
Now the Primaris are here as well.
It's just like,
game over now.
Yeah.
Okay, so that might then lead us into Michael's part then, if we finish with Salute. Because it's getting quite late and I'm getting quite tired. So we'll stop with Salute and we will hopefully be paying Michael and Kieran's campaign discussion, which is at Manufactured Conflict. So I'll stop and you can talk now.
ManCon.
Yeah, where men go and play. I was going to say where ManCon, but that wouldn't make sense.
The ManCon.
Right, let's have a break.
So, Underhive Scumbags, we have what should be an interesting segment for you to enjoy. But before I introduce our guest, let me first and preemptively apologise for any funky audio issues. Fingers crossed, Tony can make us sound at least vaguely professional. With that said, let me introduce my guest, Kieran, who will be discussing his experiences running a Dominion campaign. Welcome, Kieran.
Hi.
So, Kieran, just for the listeners, can you tell us a little bit about yourself or your gaming sort of history as such, being fairly brief, because I know you do like to expand a lot.
Yeah, in metaphorically and physically.
Obviously.
Yeah, so basically I've just been gaming for decades now. Essentially started off with Games Workshop stuff in general, your 40k and your fantasy when I was about 14, and then after breaks for uni and real life and that, just kind of got back into it again. And so been at that for a good long while. I was part of a podcast for a 40k podcast for a while. That was really nice. Still meet up with the guys there. It was the Overlords.
Yes.
Some people might remember who we are, and for that I'm sorry.
You'll be safe because there's no jingle following you up.
I don't know. People are editing this after the fact. There might be.
This is true.
There have been threats. There have been Tom Carter-laden threats.
You might be on a mission. So, at the moment, you are assisting with the running of or founding a club in Dartford, which is just to the sort of southeast-ish of London. And that's been operating for a number of years now with a very mixed gaming group. It's all playing lots of different systems and different games.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very much so. Where there is a, we started off as a 40k group, but then that just kind of broadened significantly beyond them. People just kind of had more interests, and as editions changed and stuff like that, people came in and fell out of that hobby. So yeah, we explore a load of different stuff. A lot of magic goes on there, but also a lot of role playing.
Yeah.
And finally getting a bit more of a resurgence in the miniatures games, particularly the GW stuff, which I'm quite happy about.
Yeah, that's cool. So, to start kicking off and get back on track with Necromunda, what on earth possessed you to start and run a campaign for Necromunda?
Well, part of it was because, again, it was I wanted to get more GW back into the kind of regular club rotation, make it more of a regular thing, because it had fallen out of favour for a bit.
Yeah.
And trying to get people back into full-on 8th was a challenge a lot of the time.
Yeah, it was a big step change.
Just because it's... Yeah, I mean, I like 8th. It's probably my favourite edition by and large. But then again, I'm not taking it anywhere near as seriously as I used to.
Yeah.
Because back in 5th, I was kind of a semi-competitive player and stuff like that, and I just cannot be bothered with any of that now. So I'm glad with 8th that I don't know what it's like with the competitive scene. I don't particularly want to know what it's like with the competitive scene, because that stuff will probably just make me annoyed. But yeah, but the problem is when you've only got sort of the one evening, like 4 hours a week to run the games, and there is a lot of kind of infrastructure and effort required around setting them up. It can be just sort of a bit of a big ask to get people involved in making that a more regular thing.
Yeah, like
There's a lot of infrastructure that goes around.
Like it's a big, large affair, isn't it? It's a big chunk of time and effort. Not only from a transport perspective of getting your stuff there and back, but just setting up and actually playing the game. Whereas Necromunda was a slightly smaller category with less investment.
Yeah. I mean, part of the thing that kind of drew me to think about Necromunda issue is that a number of people who dropped away from the 40k scene still have the kind of fragments of fragments of that lore and that universe still embedded in them anyway. And so this was a good way of getting some of those people back in through weaponized nostalgia.
Yeah.
And also because the buy-in is, certainly for Games Workshop, relatively light as well, and I wanted to try and make that buy-in as light as possible to get some of the people who drifted away back into it regularly, and running a campaign is one of the best ways of getting a group of people to kind of play the games regularly and get the games in decent circulation.
That's a fair point. So talking about the players then, how many people have you got in this current campaign, and what sort of gangs are people using?
Right, this campaign has got an awkward number because we've got seven participants in this one, which is just kind of in nearly every sort of setup. 7 is a really bad number.
It's a lucky number, surely.
Not when you're trying to organise things. Nothing goes evenly into 7s.
Oh.
So yeah, odd numbers you can arrange around. 8 and 6, perfectly fine. 7 is an aberration and needs to be destroyed. But so we got 7 of us. Fairly broad gamut of gangs actually, especially because I opened it up to the cults as well as the gangs.
Yeah.
Because I know there was a couple of interest in running cults. So we've only actually got 1 repeated gang. We got 2 Goliath players who, both to their credit, are running different styles of Goliath.
That's interesting.
If there were such a thing, one of them just trying to kind of drown the board in beef, and the other one's just spent all their money on like half a dozen dudes.
So one's all the beef and the other one's all the cakes.
It's kinda, yeah. One's all beef and one's all toys. So they both try different styles there. So they're not cookie cutter by any stretch. No, the only gangs that we've got a Chaos Cult, we've got obviously a Gene Stealer cult. The only gangs that we are missing are Escher and Cawdor, and even then Chaos Cults fall under the Cawdor bracket for a lot of stuff. So we can count them as Cawdor. There's just no Escher going around.
No, it's good that there's not sort of one predominant house that's sort of dominating things, so everyone gets a little flavour of what the other gangs can do.
Yeah, very much so.
And also out of these players, I think there was a number of relatively new players, like people that had never played the game before. So there was some teaching.
Yeah. Basically, when it came to Necromunda, out of the starting 7, I think 3 of us had played any games of Necromunda before.
Thankfully, I fall into that one of those 3.
You do. Oh, actually, no. Hang on. Thinking about it, one of them was a new guy who had played previously, but not in any kind of regular campaign or anything. So the campaign rules were still just kind of new and different.
Okay, that's cool. How about the sort of the difficulties or the challenges you might have been facing with trying to get people involved and committed? I guess you touched on that really with trying to bring Games Workshop games back to your club.
Yeah, I mean the issue, it wasn't really that hard with this one because the people that I'd asked had already expressed an interest
that's easy, then.
in playing Necromunda anyway, and a lot of them a lot of those that left 40k kind of don't really want to spend the money or the effort in that full 40k buy-in of getting like a 1500 point army, and it's just kind of no, I'm done now. That's too much. Whereas 25 quid on 10 models is much easier. So if they said yes to the buy-in for it and just went for it, so I haven't had anyone say yes and then back out.
That's cool.
So in terms of keeping people still involved, that's not been a challenge yet, but it's still early days in the campaign.
Yeah.
And as we know, kind of getting a group of nerds to do anything is very much in cat herding territory.
It's very different.
So
okay.
So yeah, time will tell on that one. I had more than one Blood Bowl League collapse just over time, start strong and then just kind of fade away.
Yeah, that is the danger, isn't it, with any sort of campaign system, is trying to keep that enthusiasm level going for over an extended period of time.
Yeah, particularly as what can happen a lot with these kind of campaigns is that if someone is just kind of repeatedly getting stepped on, that can kind of have a negative impact that ripples out throughout the rest of the players as well. Because you never want someone to just kind of turn up and have just endlessly a bad time.
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone would have a shocking time at rolling dice. That would just be appalling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's you don't want bad losers in your campaign.
No, or anyone that's on a podcast that is a bad loser.
Yeah, it's never happened before.
Thankfully, hopefully never will. What about the paperwork and upkeep side of things? Like, I've seen you down the club with your laptop sprawled out, furiously updating people's rosters and things like that.
Yeah, that's tricky, particularly when you're playing in the campaign as well. Then there's the extra amount of effort you've got to bring in, because you're not just kind of doing everyone's records. You're also trying to keep track of your own.
Yeah.
And messing around with all of that and keeping all of your stuff up. Keeping your stuff up to date isn't too big a deal, but there's a lot more kind of detail that's required. In terms of running this campaign, I keep it relatively light on the paperwork. I don't require full inventories of everyone's stuff, for example, or anything like that. I keep a gang roster for each player, but that's it. I don't keep individual character rosters.
Yeah. Okay, so it's really up to the players to just keep a lid on things and keep themselves up to date and make sure that you're aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, for the general part, right, this isn't a competitive style event or anything. I trust that everyone involved here is not going to be an arse. Yeah, is essentially the core of it.
Hope for, isn't it?
So, yeah, and with something that's kind of built around like 6 players or so, that's relatively easy to maintain because you don't need. It's not like a full kind of 32-person tournament or anything like that. You've just got the core of people that you generally, or in my case at least, all know already.
Yeah,
so you're a lot freer to kind of trust the people because you know them.
Yeah. Okay. Having known you for a number of years now, I know that you've got quite a creative imagination with regards to storytelling. And maybe aspirations of novelisation and stuff like that. How are you getting on with trying to add some of that to the campaign, or is that something you're just not interested in right now?
Yeah, basically, I don't have the energy with the campaign to do a lot of the narrative-y stuff at the moment. Particularly because when I was on the more creative side and being more kind of actively trying to write and putting a lot more into into the kind of army lore and what have you way back when, my job was less than it is now. So that's just kind of a bit of a squeeze on the time, and plus it's trying to keep on top of all the rules and all the situations that come out, and all of that is just kind of, that's enough.
Yeah, that's
for me right now. So I'm not.
That's certainly something to consider, because I've seen a number of people where they've done some really quite amazing newsletters and things like that for their
Oh yeah,
It's fantastic if you've got the time and the energy to do that.
Oh yeah, kudos to them. It's that kind of extra kind of value on all of this stuff, and the extra effort is really great thing to kind of bring to the table. But at the moment, I'm just trying to settle down on figuring out the rules properly and trying to make sure that everything kind of vaguely works.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Which is not necessarily the easiest thing to keep going on, even if everyone is on the level. There is just kind of so much in the rule system that isn't always the clearest.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so something you mentioned a little earlier was about someone getting a severe beating, not the actual individual, perhaps just their gang. How have you been handling gangs that have been severely crippled, apart from my obvious mulligan that I mentioned a show or two ago?
Well, I mean, in general, the mulligan is a very extreme example because it just went so bad.
Was an extreme game.
Yeah, it really was thoroughly ridiculous. That should not have happened. So the mulligan, and it was only because that kind of thing happened really early in the campaign.
The first game.
Yeah, it was literally the first game. So if it was just kind of at the halfway point, or say just before downtime, I probably wouldn't do a mulligan because you'd have more of a more of a kind of backbone to soak up the loss.
Yeah, that would be fair.
On that one. So just right at the beginning, that was too crippling too early. Other ways are we've introduced a kind of essentially a recovery game that we're calling the Flophouse, which is just because one of the things that was just kind of getting on some of our players' nerves is a lot of our players don't really know when to run away.
That's me!
No, you're not the only one. So one of our Goliath players will never run away unless the dice really actually make him, regardless of what happens, and kudos for that. But the Flophouse was developed because one of the problems was if someone took a heavy beating, then it kind of wiped out their next game. Particularly in the early stages where you haven't had the time or the resources to beef up your gang with more redundant members. So we introduced the Flophouse, which is basically counts as one of your campaign games for the month, because may as well start at the beginning. We are running, whereas the normal Dominion campaign in the rulebook says you split it into kind of weeks and run 3 weeks, then downtime, then 3 weeks of takeover. We're running that in months instead, and putting a game limit for each player to try and stop snowballing, essentially. So everyone gets three games a month, full-on campaign games. And so the Flophouse counts as one of your full-on campaign games, but you don't actually play a game. You just kind of you don't gain experience, you don't gain any territories, but a game counts as having been done for getting income from your territories and for recovery times for your gang.
That's the most valuable thing, just being able to field more bodies in your next game.
Yeah. I mean, there are several of us who have kind of not had the need to do any Flophouse stuff, but and it's only one Flophouse per month as well. So in general, there's not going to be that big. It's not that prone for abuse either, because people are all on the same level with that, and just use it for dire circumstances when they are just going to be crippled for the next game. So want to actually have a game rather than just get nothing done and feel bad about
for the
it.
record, I've already been in the Flophouse, even after my mulligan. It's been too shocking for words.
It's been non-good, yeah.
You mentioned about extremes and things, so maybe that's a good time to move on to our tactics cards. Things that your initial response with the tactics card was to exclude them initially. One because it adds another level of complication and another buy-in point for people, and then also because of the potential for them swinging games in an extreme way.
Yeah. I'm still undecided as to kind of what I feel about tactics cards, to be honest. just because I understand their role as a balancing mechanic, because they are pretty much the only balancing mechanic for wild variations in gang rating being deployed in the same fight. And so I understand their value there, but there are just kind of a few of them that I feel are too powerful. I think because I'll start at the beginning there, I guess. Basically, I initially wanted to just kind of not have gang tactics at all, unless both players agreed to use gang tactics. Just because it like you said earlier, it reduces complication and it also reduces the need for any buy-in from people, because I wanted to keep that as low as possible. But I didn't realise at the time that that tactics cards are the balancing mechanic. So the second month of the campaign, I've decided to bring them in and see how that plays out. Fortunately, my first game in the second run of this campaign, we both decided not to use tactics cards and just played, because I'm always going to allow that to happen.
You could hear the shenanigans from my table, though, couldn't you?
Yes, yeah, because that's also another thing, is that tactics cards, particularly because you get to choose them in most of the fights, you get to choose 2 or 3.
You can cherry
that
the
just
ones, obviously.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, one that particularly got my ire was it History of Violence or something?
That's one of my favourites.
Well, yeah, but it's just sort of, that's freely pickable by anyone. It's clearly one of the best tactics to bring up 90% of the time, so why would anyone not choose it?
That's a fair point.
Unless they're prohibited from doing so, which means no one's leader is ever turning up to a fight.
Or if there's one uber-armed model in the gang or something like that. Got some suits.
Yeah, someone spent like 300 credits on 250 odd credits on a nice shiny ambot that will never arrive.
Yeah. But it should be very disappointing. I can see that.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing. I kind of I understand where it's coming from, but the problem is, because it's freely choosable by everyone, it just leads to essentially, I think, people becoming disillusioned with kind of their big hitters, particularly as leaders are so important in the game in general.
Okay, so how would you think about sort of reducing their impact in the game, but still adding that level of flavour?
Well, we had a couple of we had a chat about it when we were there. Obviously, with you as well, because you've had more experience with the tactics cards than any of us. And we had kind of 2 sort of solutions for this. One of them is very card specific, and the other one's more of an overarching thing. The card specific one was to nerf that card a little bit to be a random member of the opposing gang who doesn't turn up and gets replaced if you've got a model to replace him, rather than a gang member that you chose. So there's still the chance that the leader will be the one who cuts and runs, but
it's not guaranteed.
But there's it's more likely to be one of your chaff guys, as a way of just kind of evening that out a little bit. But that again is very kind of card specific. And the other solution that we had that you suggested is that you don't ever choose your tactics cards; you just draw them randomly from what's allowed.
And that way, it's very unlikely that those uber powerful ones are going to actually come out in your hand. But when they do, then they will have a very telling effect on the game.
Yeah. That does come with the potential drawback of you just drawing a hand of garbage.
This is true.
And adding more randomness to a game that has already got a massive amount of randomness included. So, long story short, I don't object to either of those kind of solutions. I'm just not sure where I land on it yet, which is possibly a bad place for an arbitrator.
Well,
but
what I'm gonna
there
do,
you go.
Then, I shall commit to not getting stuck in a rut and automatically choosing those particular ones that I favour, and I shall I'll stand by my guns and maybe draw them randomly regardless.
Yeah, I'm thinking of just kind of putting in. We'll just do the random card selection and see how people feel about that one. Speaking of random selections, another tweak I made to the game, again that has some pros and cons behind it, is we're in the occupation phase right now, and instead of the way that the book tells you to do it, which is challengers and defenders, and choosing which territory, I've been allocating the territories randomly in each game. Because I was initially just kind of concerned with one, that there has to be a challenger, and the challenger picks which territory you're fighting over. When you're running in a game-limited environment that I'm doing at the moment, it basically means that some suckers are just going to have no choice over where they go.
Yeah, also...
Whereas other people will have the choice, and there's also no kind of regulating mechanic over how often someone gets to be a challenger. And so how do you resolve those sort of disputes? Is it just kind of someone just challenges someone immediately, then immediately challenges someone else, and then challenges someone else?
Yeah, it also allows
what?
Those that either haven't got the books or haven't read and fully understood about each of the territories. They don't have to quickly swat up on what they are before they get the choice of choosing one of them. You're just told that this is the territory you're fighting over. Away you go.
Yeah, because part of the issue that we have with this campaign is, again, to keep the buy-in low, a lot of the people playing don't actually have the rulebooks.
Yeah.
They've been given training games, they've been lent rulebooks and stuff like that, so they know roughly how things go on. And about half of us have our own rulebooks.
Yeah, okay. That leads on to a sort of a logistics issue with partly running the club. Is like the amount of space that it's taking up. With only 7 people playing, it's not too sad to squirrel away a couple of tables to be able to play some games on. But what about the tiles and the terrain? At the moment, the games are small, so we're not needing to play on huge sort of tables or anything.
Yeah. I mean, what I've been doing with this campaign is we've just been playing Zone Mortalis. Zone Mortalis stuff. Again, that was a practicality issue for me, because it meant that people only kind of really have to know like 6 of the missions, rather than the full 12 or whatever. But also because I think the messing around in tunnels play I enjoyed a lot more than just the kind of higher level skirmish, which I think just encourages people too much to just kind of have stick it with long range weapons and just not move.
Yeah, you just
and so it will penalise the short range gangs.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that.
Because you can't do anything. Because I mean, what you can do with Escher, for example, is they've got cheap gangers. They get mega discounted las guns. So just go in, billion las guns, top floor. Just keep shooting and make it a slog to do anything.
That's fair enough.
I mean that's obviously not what's happened here for a couple of reasons, but that was a concern that I had, and I just wanted to stick with the Zone Mortalis because it helped mitigate some stuff that's otherwise absolutely devastating. So things like heavy stubbers and grenade launchers are progressively harder to use the best in Zone Mortalis than you would be able to in, say, a Second of Mechanics.
It's that long lane of fire, isn't it? In the Zone Mortalis games, you don't often get that. Or it's very obvious where that model has got to go.
Yeah, and that level of kind of lots of line of sight reduction, rather than and having that fairly kind of and having that clear in the rules as opposed to kind of true line of sight issues and things like that simplified a lot of things.
For new players, it's actually an easier concept to grasp, isn't it? The fact that you've got that, you can draw that line, and if it crosses that wall or that piece of terrain, then that's it. That's blocked or obscured. But if you're relying on
Yeah,
people's,
absolutely.
not people's honesty, but when you're playing a game, it's very subjective. And
Yeah, and also with the amount of scenery that goes around, it can be very just sort of awkward to get the true line of sight with your eyes anyway. It can be a bit dodgy.
Cool. So for you, from your perspective so far, bearing in mind it is early days in the campaign, what has been your favourite part so far?
Favorite part is probably one of the best things to watch has just been the stubbornness of Josh, one of our Goliath players, who is a guy that I mentioned earlier, who is just kind of refuses to use the flophouse, refuses to ever flee at all, even when the other Goliath player's first game was against Josh, and Josh had literally only half his gang active. All of them were gangers because his leader and both his champions were in recovery. So he just had 3 gangers versus a full-on 8 Goliath gang bearing down on him from across the field, and he just kind of it was just great because he knew he wouldn't win, and the game just went into an absolute drag of someone shutting the door all the time, someone desperately trying to shoot it open and failing, and and it was thoroughly ridiculous until the last Goliath finally ran away. So that's probably the most fun game to watch, just because everyone was just really laughing about how stupid it all was. It was great. I've had a couple of my gang's been doing very well, and that is a bit of a problem for me, to be honest, because I feel like I'm cheesing it a bit, because I'm running for context, I'm running Orlocks, and we have a lot of combat shotguns, and in Zone Mortalis games, combat shotguns are really good.
Yes, I've been on the receiving end of those. I didn't like it.
Yeah, many have. It's particularly mean. I mean, it wasn't helped by the fact that I misunderstood some of the scattershot rules and how they interact with your familiar.
Yeah.
So in one of our games, so that should have come out a bit different.
Yeah, I don't think that would have made a huge difference in the overall effect on the game. To be fair,
I mean, I had more shotguns nearby, because that's the Orlock Creed. There's always more shotguns.
Okay.
And also it's like one of the, I was mentioning earlier, random territory assignment. That's actually part of the and I benefited from one of the inherent problems with the random assignment, is that I kind of lucked out in getting the money territories. So my first 2 territories were the Collapsed Dome and the Mine Works, which just means I have a massive credit advantage right at the beginning.
More toys.
And frequently did. That's the thing, I've got like 3 champions now. And I just kind of played very much to the 3 champions. All of my combat shotgun wielders have Firestorm ammo. It's been ridiculous. So yeah, it leads on to actually another point that I think we had on the drop in, drop out, actually, when it comes to running a campaign, because these things, real life gets in the way, these things happen.
Yes, don't we both know that?
And yeah, I mean, that's very much the thing, because as much as I kind of like running and playing in the campaign, I have to, due to a work thing, I have to relocate pretty much up the entire country. So I can't realistically take an active part as a player in the campaign anymore. I still want to run it though, because I still like the kind of idea of the campaign and how people are and how the other players are enjoying it.
I still do the admin
so
side and run.
Absolutely.
As such from afar.
Yeah, I still want to run it. I very much so. I just can't really. I don't have the availability. It's not practical for me to play in it anymore. And to be honest, given how lucky my gang has been so far, and how kind of dominating they are at the moment. And I realise how kind of gross and self-aggrandising that sounds, but gang rating, I think is the highest gang rating we've got so far is 1295. Apart from my gang, that's just under 1600.
That's some way ahead, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just kind of, again, trying to limit snowballing, and my gang has just snowballed. So so I've kind of announced it to the rest of the campaign guys that I am still going to run it, still want it to happen absolutely, I just can't join in. So what's happening is essentially I'm just going to be putting a couple of my territories back into open rotation.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
For people to
squabble over.
For people to argue over. Yeah.
That's good. And also
so obviously the big money ones, I think. I think the mine workings and the shattered dome are going to go back in there. I'm not going to put the whole lot back in because I'll just put in enough so we've got the full whack for a 6-player campaign, because of course it will be 6 at that point.
And then potentially
so the recycled territories will be... Yeah, there is that as well.
Hey-ho.
So we'll just kind of see what happens.
So with that, it's the same topic essentially, but drifting away. But you mentioned about a Blood Bowl league that was run at the club that kind of petered out. It's now really the main effort there is to try and keep the campaign together, keep people's enthusiasm level going, and encouraging people to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the plus point is that we do have a lot of enthusiastic players in the campaign. No one seems to be just kind of trudging through it. Everyone's kind of enjoying themselves, even when bad things happen to them.
Frequently.
So I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. And in any case, like with the Blood Bowl league that I mentioned earlier, yeah, it petered out, but it was a solid kind of gaming fixture for about 6 months.
Yeah, that's fairly decent.
Which is certainly worth the time the time and cost investment, as far as I was concerned, in getting my Chaos team up and playing them for a while. And I feel even though I'm ditching out the campaign now, I still feel the same way with my Orlocks. I still really like the red shift. I've painted them up. They look all right, and so I don't regret any of it. So
you can always hope
this is kind of, even if it does end up petering out, it's kind of, I see it as sort of a win for me.
Well, hopefully at some point you might be able to make a return visit with your gang and try and beat down on whoever is the top dog at the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the idea is, I think, is when I'm down, I'm more than happy to kind of throw in on a skirmish game with anyone who's still in the campaign.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And just run those as side missions or whatever.
I'd like to have some revenge at some point, or at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, more mind control.
Whether that turns out to be at the club or perhaps at Warhammer World or wherever, then I'm definitely wanting that. But my gang needs to shore itself up a little bit. It's still a bit fragile.
Yeah, it's still feeling the hurt.
Okay, so.
Although you don't have the lowest rep in the campaign.
Is, amazing,
so,
to be honest.
Yeah.
So the final thing I think we really want to talk about is, have you had any thoughts about how you're going to be ending the campaign and wrapping it all up? Because we're still in the first phase, aren't we, as such? Yes,
we're still in the first phase.
You've not even considered yet. You want to try and get this completed first.
Yeah. I'm basically playing it out as it is in the book. Obviously, when the takeover phase starts, then people will be able to pick which territories they start fighting over and what have you. So that will just kind of go on for the full kind of 3-month span.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because the takeover phase in Dominion is normally 3 weeks, so increase to 3 months, and then I'll just kind of. I like the idea of having the different awards for the different gangs and stuff like that, so there's no one clear winner. It's stuff they've been doing in Games Workshop games for a while, is actually trying to diversify the rewards as much as possible.
I think that's a very good measure of how successful a campaign or a league has been. because
Yeah.
everybody stands a chance of some sort of recognition. It's not a prize; it's just an accolade that they can cling on to.
Yeah, very very much so, and it'll be fun. I might try that if I'm gonna go into kind of narrative, silly newslettery mode and stuff like that. That'd be the time that I would do
Makes some
that.
sense.
Yeah, and also I'm looking forward to Takeover because there's been a lot of squabbling over who gets Ambots.
Yes, yeah, that's the thing. I've got two. Can't afford them. I still can't afford to buy another ganger. Well, I can actually. That's a lie. Anyway, so unless you've got anything else further to add about your experiences with the campaign, Kieran, I'll just.
No, not currently. Not currently. Happy to chat about it again when more time has passed
cool.
and see how it evolves and develops.
Right, well, in that case, then I shall close out the segment. Thank you very much, Kieran, for your time. I wish you well with the campaign and, of course, my gang. But
yes, yeah, naturally.
I suspect that rather than a rise to power, it's just going to be a battle of survival. I think that's the order of the day for my gang.
Oh yeah. You phrase it like that. Living is the best revenge. Right?
I think so. So, if any of the listeners have got any comments or questions about anything we've talked about, or perhaps if there's something you'd like us to expand on or talk a bit more about, leave some comments in the Facebook group when Tom posts this show, and then maybe, as Kieran said, perhaps he'll be able to get back on the show at a later date and we can do some follow-up discussion. But for now, it's good night from me.
And so long, scummers, from me, I guess.
So now, back to the studio.
Okay, guys. I hope the interview went really well because I haven't got to hear it yet, so I'm guessing it did go well. We're at the thank yous and the closes and things that we've seen on our Facebook page. There's no new patrons, so I don't need to thank anybody there apart from the ones who've already done it. Thank you. And like I say, if anyone's a patron but hasn't been invited to the group, just private message me so we can get that sorted. So, Tony, you found some. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, there's been a good couple of things in the Facebook group in the last month or two that I've seen that I think are really great. Now, the majority of them recently have actually been a lot of brilliant terrain pieces and like custom boards, and I think they're amazing. Like these are the sort of Necromunda boards I aspire to own one day, if I'm lucky enough. And the first one was it was actually posted on the group by John Myers, but apparently it's actually his local terrain guru, Neil.
Right.
And it's just an amazing looking like Necromunda board. Like, I can see some of the hallmarks of the classic like 2D card terrain, but that's then been like built up on and made like quite sturdy and covered in all sorts of pipe work. Like I think one of the things that's brilliant about it is Neil seems to have actually built a whole like plumbing network around the base of the board using actual plumbing pipes.
Okay.
So it looks like a functioning like water purifier network or something similar. And then there's stacks of ammo crates and tons of like walkways, and just there's about like a good 15 odd pictures or so, and plenty of computer desk fans in various locations. It looks brilliant. It's just, and it's very nicely colourful without being like really bright and in your face. But it's just got like, lots of those like industrial reds and yellows, and it's a great little Necromunda board. I love it. Like I want to play on it, if I'm honest.
Sweet.
And then there's been a surprising amount of hab blocks popping up in the group in the last month or two. So I've seen a pair that are one's by Michael Green, his sort of like bombed out hab block with like nicely little decorated interiors and like little balconies and stuff, and it looks brilliant. It's a really nicely like little detailed set piece, and I think it'd look really nice either as part of like a collapsed dome section or even in like a sort of Gaslands wasteland sort of like setup. You know, it looks like it could be a sort of like shantytown hab block if it wanted to be. So that's brilliant. And then there was also a post by Edwin Heapy, which you say is actually the War Games tournament guys.
Yeah, he's the main guy in the War Games tournament. That's the one I did the interview with at the Yak Tribe event.
Well, I think this hab block he's been building was part of the terrain for the event, and it is impressive. Like, it is huge. It's the kind of like scenery piece that I don't think the Necromunda rules have accounted for falling from that height.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's instant death.
It feels like it should be instant death, but also I'm pretty sure it doesn't feel like whatever they do get hit by will be hit hard enough. Because it really is like a little skyscraper hab block. It's brilliant.
It's the Yakatomi Towers rule. If you fall from that height, you die.
Well, it practically looks like it'd play like the verticality board that was at Yak Tribe. Like, if you use just the footprint of the building as the battlefield, it practically would play like a vertical board almost.
Yeah, it is a whopper.
That's what she said.
Yes, exactly.
And then the final little shout out from me is an actual converted ganger, and it is Carl Walker's Orlock Heavier Gunner with a las cannon. Because, one, I've not really seen many las cannon armed gangers, ever. And two, the kit he's used is brilliant. I think it's actually one of the Horus Heresy las cannons for the Marines. Because it's like an underslung las cannon.
Yeah.
It's basically in the same sort of pose as like the harpoon gun or the
I think he's used the Orlock. I think he's used the Orlock arms, which is what I've used. Which is what I've ordered to use for my heavy plasma cannon. Yeah, because I don't like the pose that he's in at the moment. I've ordered some too. It's a bit too out. It's a bit too out to the side.
Oh, okay. Because I can see it only on like one side. But
yeah, it's a bit.
I like how his like arm is like, you know, really stretched out, so it's like straining to lift it.
Yeah, I mean this other one's kind of similar. It's just got a slightly better pose. Like it's looking like this last cannon is, like it's actually holding the weapon, and because he's got the servo arms, it just makes a bit more sense that that's the way he's carrying something so ridiculously large. Is that he's getting assistance from these pistons.
But it just looks great. I think it's a brilliant little model.
Yeah,
It looks perfect for an Orlock, and it just it goes together so really well. It's just a really neat, brilliant little conversion.
Yeah, no, definitely. So are they all of yours?
Yeah, those are all my picks from the group this month.
Okay, so the ones that haven't been picked by Tony, because he picked some of the ones I picked. Chris talking about terrain. He's Chris Iden started scratch building terrain, and he's really putting in a lot of detail with like plasticard and stuff like that, and they're looking really cool. I think it's using Pringles tubes as well, but
Brilliant.
But it looks really cool. I've got Johnny Ball's Cawdor, the green ones.
Oh, they look brilliant.
They are really shiny, but he was using them for a Warhammer for a tournament at Warhammer World. So it'd be interesting to know how he got on.
I like the way he's painted on the names for all the guys.
Yeah, because I think they might be hand painted.
Yeah. No, it's really nice.
Yeah, no, it looks really cool. I've got. Hang on one sec. I noticed some like Blackfriar Productions post on our thingy, they post YouTube battle reports. So if anyone's wanting battle reports of Necromunda, then they post on our group. So feel free to have a little butchers at them. And my last one is Dean Ritson. He's just created some white and blue Cawdor.
I was just about to say that. I was just looking at his stuff as well.
Because I was saying that it looks like he supports Blackburn Rovers, but he's saying it's because he's Sheffield Wednesday. So he did paint. So he did actually end up painting them because of a football team's colours. I just picked the wrong white and blue team.
Yeah, no, they're not really nice and crisp.
Yeah, they look really cool. But that's all I've got, unless Eren, you found any others.
You know what I was going to say? Dean Ritson and Johnny Ball.
Oh, so we've covered everyone in the end as a super team.
Because we've got a super community.
Oh, isn't that nice? Only Tony said that. No, the group's really cool, guys. Keep it all up. Like I said, this is now the end. I can finally go and get some sleep, and I'm sure you guys will do the same.
I'm gonna get a shower.
Yeah, that might help too. But you've not got your missus there. I'm going to go back and give my wife a hug now if she's not already gone to sleep.
Oh yeah.
But thank you, everybody. Next month, hopefully, there'll be 2 interviews. One with a guy called Carl, who's doing another campaign. Yeah, he's doing a campaign, and so we're hopefully going to do a couple of interviews with different people doing different campaigns just to see how things are going, what works, what doesn't work. And with Kevin from Promethean Forge, just to have a little chat, because I know he's contributed to us in the past. And I think it'd be cool just to have a chat, see how things are going, what's new, how he even started doing it in the first place, that sort of stuff.
That would be good, actually.
Yeah,
to see
I think
where he
nice.
Started, and maybe people out there can pick up on that and do their own thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. The more people that are making cool stuff, the better, I think.
Aye.
So that's this month, episode 17. Hopefully my computer cutting out didn't screw it all up too much. And have a good month, everybody. And speak to you soon.
Cheerio.
See you later.
And that was the end of Chronicles from the Underhive, a Necromunda and Post Apocalyptic podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. All the things we talk about in this podcast can be found at the Chronicles from the Underhive Facebook group, where we'll post up links to all of the websites we discussed and the current projects we're working on. Come and join us and post up your Necromunda projects. We hope to see you there, and may you never roll a double on your gambling den.